Sometimes I feel like I want to fly without no wings. I elevate inside.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Barkoff. I am the Sober Cold Bear, and welcome to another episode of the Sober Cold Bear podcast. This happens to be episode 25. And it's funny, when I started to kind of think about this thing about a year ago, I never thought that I would ever get to, a number of episodes, let alone 25. Joining me today, I'm thrilled and honored to have Robyn Firtel. Robyn, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm so honored and so happy that you have this out there for your audience.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. You have a lot to say, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. I will introduce you in just a minute as well. But just to remind everybody, I go through this every time. This is kind of my little disclaimer. The Sober Cold Bear podcast is here as a resource to you. This is not the place to come. If you want to get sober, there are ways to do that. There are different approved programs, as they say. You can go to Alcoholics Anonymous, which is what I do. Robyn does this as well. You can do, which is a 12-step program. You can get a sponsor. You can go to rehab if you need to go to rehab. I always kid. I probably should have gone to rehab, didn't, but now I'm doing good. So, but like I said, this is a resource to you. I created this as a place to talk about a number of topics, whether it's mental health, whether it's addiction, whether it's recovery. Today, we're going to be talking about the very interesting topic, cross addiction. We'll get to that in a second. As you know, Robyn is an expert in this field, and I'm thrilled to have her to be able to kind of speak to this. But again, this is here as a resource. It's here for you to get really great insights. Hopefully you'll get something from this conversation. I'm sure you will. Robyn has a ton to say. We've talked a number of times, and but if you do need help, ask for help. It's really starts with reaching out to a loved one. Going to a coworker, ask your best friend, your loved one, your spouse, your husband, your wife, anybody. But it really starts with, I need help. And once you, kind of say, I need help, then you can hopefully get, the proper resources and support that you need. And, we're here for you. So reach out to me, reach out to Robyn. You're going to get her information very shortly as you learn about her and her journey. Both in sobriety as well as the things that she is doing and the services that she is providing as a pay it forward. It's pretty incredible. So, Robyn Firtel, thank you again for being here. Robyn is out of San Diego, California. She is a licensed psychotherapist. She is also an expert in a relationship expert, as well as a licensed psychotherapist. I think I mentioned that already, as well as a certified parenting expert. She graduated with honors from the University of California, Irvine, with a Bachelor of Arts in Social Ecology. And she earned a Master's of Arts in Marriage and Family Therapy in 1997, which was the year that you got sober as well. January 1st, 1997. You've been sober for a very, very long time. And you can find Robyn at robynfirtel.com. There's her picture. You can find her on Instagram. She has a shit ton of followers. It's pretty awesome. You have like 90,000 followers. I'm like small pennies compared to you, but hopefully people will see this and we'll get more people to tune in. And we're going to talk about cross addiction, but Robyn, let's start out with you and what you do and your story and your sobriety. Let's go from there. And like I said, this is going to turn into a conversation very quickly. But again, thank you so much for being here, and let's get to a conversation.
Thank you so much. Yes, and for all your viewers, if you have decided to come into sobriety, and this is the best way to live, and if you're here
100%.
because somebody is suffering from addiction, like, this is amazing that you're putting yourself, like, you're here for a reason, right? And so currently I'm also, besides being a therapist, I'm also working at the prisons in North County, which has been really, really great. And when you said play it forward, that's definitely my passion, is to meet people in their darkest hour. Because when I was in my darkest hour, people loved me until I could love myself. So, I won't do too much about my backstory, because I want to really spend my time talking about the pitfalls that can happen and also the miracles in sobriety.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, yeah, about myself. I was born in Johannesburg, South Africa. I was raised by my grandmother, and I had my parents there, but not really. Um, it was a war-torn country at the time. So it was before apartheid was abolished. So I was very much prone to a lot of racial violence and violence just in general. And so I had a lot of trauma. When we came here, it was a bomb threat, basically by my house. So my family just picked up and moved when I was 11. And we were here illegally, which was really, really scary for many years. And at that, that's a whole long backstory. So at the time, I was taken away from my primary caretaker, who was my grandmother, and also a lady that raised me there, like a nanny type thing. And we came here, and my dad didn't have much work, and I was pretty much on my own. My dad went into a very bad depression trying to make ends meet. And thank God for them, right, that they did that, because we needed to get out. But
Did you come?
I
Did you
was,
come straight to California from? By the way, that's amazing that you got
yeah,
out, and I've read books about apartheid and all the wars and just the craziness down there, even
yeah,
today. But did
yeah.
you move straight to California, or did you kind of come in through a different way and just kind of make your way over to Cali?
Good question. No, we moved straight to San Diego.
Oh wow,
But we didn't have any of our belongings. We just kind of escaped. It was just like sudden. Nothing was really explained. And again, it was this when I was growing up, there was a lot of violence that I saw, like guns and beatings and all
sure.
kinds of, but at the same time I had a lot of family there. So it was I felt very loved there as well. So when we came here, my parents were immigrants, right? They were illegal immigrants. So it was very scary, and they were working under the table, and it was a hard time. So the first time got introduced to any drugs and alcohol, I was 12. So I
Yeah.
was a guy down the street took a liking to me, and he was into meth and coke. And I just, the minute I did it, it was like I would walk around the neighborhood and just feel so alone, just being here from another country and like losing everything, crying, feeling alone, feeling sad, feeling worthless. And then I got introduced to this guy who introduced me to meth and coke and alcohol. And just like many of us, when we first get introduced, some people, it takes a long time. For me, it was like immediate. Like my personality is one of an addict. Like the minute I did it, I was like, I'm going to do this forever.
Oh
Because
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you know that feeling. So it was like
Yeah.
I was zero
Well, I
to like
mean,
a
you lose your sense of inhibition, you gain confidence, you know all the things that kind of held you back because of your own the things that were happening in between your two ears, all that goes away when you lose all that. So that's what drugs and alcohol do, and then ultimately it is the solution, but it eventually becomes the problem.
right. It almost acts like like if you're searching for a spiritual experience in combination with neglectful or abusive parents, it kind of takes the place of all of that. Like it gives
Yeah,
you something in the beginning that you aren't getting, and it's a solution, right?
sure.
And then along with that, I met a ton of people in high school. I was ran with kind of a popular group of girls, but I was always the one that was the partier, right? And then along
Right.
with that, we had Hollywood, that we'd go into Hollywood. So my friends got into all kinds of dark things, pretty much everything you can imagine that went on with drugs and alcohol and young girls happened when I was out there. So a
So
lot of
r-
trauma.
r- remind me. So you were, I think, 26 when you got sober. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
You were
So
20.
yeah.
You were
mm,
26. Okay.
Yeah. So to fast forward that, my dad became very abusive. So I was also taken out of my house. I mean, it was just like a crazy, crazy thing. Failed high school. I was a high school dropout because of drugs and alcohol and the abusive home, which, by the way, in sobriety, my dad and I are really close. So
Oh, good. I was going to ask you, did you
you
guys
can
make
forgive.
up? Yeah.
Yes, if you don't, I believe through
Forgiveness is a
many,
huge piece of
it's,
recovery.
yeah, you can forgive. And some people can't continue if it's the person's really toxic, but that wasn't my story.
It's
So
great.
yeah, so I got in 1997, fast forward. I also at that time of this is the cross addiction started soon after I got sober. So
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to tell you like what at
Yeah,
the end
no,
of
no. I mean, the cross addiction piece, I think it's a big thing, right? Because you go from one drug to another drug to another
yeah,
drug. You go to another type of addiction, whether it's food, whether
yeah.
it's, some type of, gambling, whether it's sex, whether it's porn, whether it's now social media is a big, big problem out there. So, um, you got sober, but you very quickly kind of replaced that with something else.
Yeah. So when I was drinking and using too, it was always one boy, one guy after another. I very much was addicted to relationships. And I actually think that that could have been my root addiction is trauma and needing something more and finding it in people, places, and things, right? Like the codependency for a lot of us addicts are the root. So
Do
when I
you
got
do you I'm
sober,
gonna I'm gonna ask you a tough question.
yeah, ask me
Do
anything.
you do you feel like because of the trauma that you went through, both when you were in South Africa as well as the trauma that you went through with your dad, um, you know, lack of self-respect and love for oneself causes somebody to go find it elsewhere, right? Which usually causes, somebody to kind of lead into something. Is that a big reason why you kind of went out and did those things?
I think inside of me, I always wanted to find something higher than me to make me feel whole. But I think the trauma and the rejection that I felt and the worthlessness
Hmm.
and the emptiness that I felt inside was so vast. And I think it was, to answer your question, it was more over hate. I literally hated my dad. I wanted to get him back. And in we say like you drink the poison hoping the other one would die. It was a lot of it was fueled by trauma, which is bitterness and hatred, and just
So you
doing
were doing it
anything.
as a way to kind of act out towards your dad?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yes, it was
Okay.
definitely. So then, when in 1997, it wasn't a big thing to go get sober for a woman.
Oh.
Like, you guys got to remember when in 1997, the rooms were filled with smoke. There were a lot of people in their 80s. Like, there wasn't like a lot of young ladies getting sober. Like, it was a really bad bottom when I got sober. I had no other place to go. And my parents didn't have money to send me anywhere. Like a lot of people tried to help me get sober. I couldn't. I could not get sober. I absolutely, it was that feeling of every day waking up, not being able to stop and being totally powerless, but knowing that I should. So when I came to the rooms, I was told to not drink and go to meetings in between. By the way, that didn't work for me. Like I'm a real addict, right? Like I needed every single piece of what I needed and the steps and all the other stuff. So within a couple of months of getting sober, to answer that question, I decided, and I was never had a weight problem, never had a weight problem, but I decided to go on a diet. And
Mm,
then the diet turned into just like addicts, right? Like now, if I'm not eating this, I don't have to eat this. Now,
mm.
if I'm running once a day, I can run twice a day. Now, but here's what it's fueled by. It's fueled by, I hate myself. I need to be different. I need to be perfect. And I need to be a certain size so that a guy can come along and rescue me, right? All the same addiction. It's
It
like
it goes
alcohol
back to the same it goes back to the same root cause.
yeah, the same root cause: rejection, abandonment, lack of power, not having a higher power. So this anorexia, then the
Or
anorexia was, so it's crazy because in the rooms, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like people will say they'll laugh about cake, like, oh, ha, 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 like you ate the whole cake. It is not funny. Like a lot of people in the rooms go to eating disorders. And it's like, yes, I'm sober, but I am using this other addiction, like completely using this other addiction. So I'm not drinking and using, and I can say I'm sober, but I'm still obsessed with something outside of myself, and it's
Yeah,
killing
the
me.
yeah, the obsessive compulsive aspect of the addict is one
Mhm.
of that's always intrigued me because I am like OCD on steroids. And like I am like full on OCD. Like it's just like
Are
squirrel,
you?
and I'm like, oh my God, like my ability to focus is just fucking terrible. But
Mm.
I will say that, you know, when we stop doing one thing, we try and replace it with something else. Like for me, it's work, right? For me, it's
Yeah.
this podcast. For me, it's like once I start, like this is kind of a silly example, but like, you know, we live in a obviously in Oregon, and it rains a lot, and you know, we have
Mm.
like a lot of wood gates and fences around our house. I replaced one gate, but instead of stopping at that one gate, I decided to replace all of them. So over the span of like, you know, that's my addict mind. It's like I didn't stop at just one. I stopped at
Right.
like the rest of them. And over the last like 2 weeks, I've been slowly replacing every single gate. Now I finished it and it's a great accomplishment, but that's just kind of how my addict mind is. I'm
Yeah, it's
fully
all or nothing.
obsessed. Yeah, it's all or nothing. It's like I'm all in and I do this, and it's like it is, and that's how it was with drugs and alcohol. You know, that's how it is. And
Yeah.
then so, you know, we do, you know, the cross addiction piece is such a such a massive subject that is so close to me and so endearing to me that I actually really identify with. And I'm sure
Yeah.
folks that see this will be like, "Oh shit, like I didn't even think about it that way." So it's just it's
Yeah.
awesome that you're bringing this to the table.
And Matt, what you're saying though is like, I wonder if this could also be a gift, right? Like when I decided to do my therapy practice or like be an actual good wife or mother, that same resilience and that same, like, I got to do this or no God, right? Like it can also be used, but the addiction twists that in you, right? Like that is a gift. Like you put up one fence and you put up another, that could be used for the good. It doesn't mean that that's all bad, right? And like certain gifts that we have can be they get exploited, like our instincts run wild, like the big book talks about, right? From
Oh
these
yeah.
addictions. Right.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of the other piece of it is the depression really, once I put down the drugs and alcohol, right now I'm cross addicting. And then all of the PTSD and the trauma that I had from all of the horrible things that happen as a woman being on drugs and alcohol in Hollywood, right? Like all of the flashbacks started coming back, and the
Hmm.
depression was insane. Like I just didn't even want to live. And I got the message like, don't drink and come to meetings, which,
Well, I mean, I do want to double click into that for a second because
yeah,
I think that's an important point. Out in the world, it's pretty well known in terms of what happens when you take drugs and alcohol. You get a lot of, you know, dopamine releases, right? Whether
yeah.
you're doing
Mm-hmm.
cocaine or whether you're like supposedly alcohol and a few other drugs are the ones that actually release the most dopamine. Now, what happens, especially like cocaine, I was addicted to cocaine for many, many years. I was addicted to
Yeah.
Vicodin for many, many years. When you go as long as I did, as long as you did, in terms of the level of usage and the amount of dopamine that is being released, when you stop, it's what your brain ceases to continue to produce. So your brain
Right.
stops actually producing that dopamine, and your brain is somewhat rewired, and a lot of the rewirings, the
Mm-hmm.
and again, I'm not a doctor. I just know this because I suffer from it. I suffer from
Yeah.
depression, and I
Yeah.
I'm on meds for depression. I go
Good.
to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I do all the things, right? Not to
Mm-hmm.
mention practice program. But I know that my brain over the years was completely rewired. And it takes, you know, it doesn't take, you know, days or months. It takes years for the
Yes. And
brain
yes.
to completely reinstate itself back to normalcy.
Right. But the cross addictions prolong it, right? Like the cross addict, like what you're saying is, and that's the message, is it's okay to endure pain when you're sober. You got to push through the pain. Like getting sober is painful because everything you drank and used over is going to come up. But if there's cross addictions that come, it stops the growth, right? And your brain can be rewired. But like you said, it takes time. It doesn't just, it doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. So it's so powerful though. And I get the struggle.
Yeah.
And then so the next thing is that I thought, well, I know what will fix this. I will be getting married. Like then, someone came along. I had lost soon after I was sober, my best friend died in a car accident. My ex-boyfriend, that's another whole thing, committed suicide.
Oh my
Called
goodness.
me drunk one night and said, if you break up with me, I'm going to kill myself. And the next day he did. So I was
Oh
living
my.
with all of that. Besides all the trauma from my childhood, I was
Oh.
already now dealing with all this. And this guy came along.
How many
Great
years
guy.
after getting sober did all this happen?
30
The
days.
first. Holy shit! So you got
I know.
sober in 1997, and 30 days after all this,
Yep. And I met the
your
guy.
best.
I met my ex-husband, who's my child's father. Right. He's a great guy. His name's I won't say his name, but
That's okay.
poor
I mean, you
guy.
can if you
He had
want to.
no idea. He had no
Yeah, and
idea what he was getting into. So
well, there is blessings in all that,
there,
right? You didn't end up having a child out of
my
it. That's
beautiful daughter, right?
there
My
you
beautiful
go.
daughter. And you know what? I
Nice.
was very vigilant about going to meetings, and I smoked cigarettes with a bunch of 80-year-old women. That, like, at the time, there were very few meetings. There was, you had to go and drive really far, and
There's
they
got to
were
be a
all
Paul. There's got to be a Paul Rudd movie around like a young woman smoking cigarettes in a fucking AA room with a bunch of 80-year-olds. There's got to be a
I
Paul
know.
Rudd bit
I
somewhere.
know, I
You know.
know. And my sponsor, Shan, she's like, all right, Robyn, go get me, this is your task for the day. You're going to learn how to grocery shop and go get me rice and beans and whatever. Because I didn't have any skills whatsoever when I got to
Oh,
the
Lord.
rooms, like nothing. I was like a street girl.
Oh,
So, and then, during the marriage, I just really wanted all the abandonment and rejection and everything. I just wanted to make sure that he didn't leave me. Right. So now the love addiction really started on full force. Like I was going to do everything to make him think I was normal. And so I would hide a lot of what I was going through. Like I was going through torment on a daily basis to where I was having flashbacks and I was depressed and I was barely functioning. But on the outside, I was just trying to, I have it. And I think a lot of addicts do. We have this amazing ability to hide what's actually happening and put on a face. And it's almost more dangerous than when I was like full on drug and alcohol addict couldn't make a living, was on the streets. This was almost worse because I was hiding it, right? Like I was hiding what was actually happening. And in my mind, every day was a struggle. I was, my thoughts had become so. Have you heard the bedevilments in the program? Like I was misery to depression. I couldn't make personal relationships,
oh yeah.
and also,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're talking about page 84 of the big book.
84, right? It was, but I knew, and this is the thing. I kept going to a ton of meetings and not drinking between. I had by that time, by the way, had gone through after I was a high school dropout. I had gone to college, got my took a GED thing, got into UC Irvine. I was in my master's program for therapy, and then during the day when I wasn't in school, I was just hiding what was actually happening because I
Mm.
didn't want the marriage. And
So
then
let's double click. So you got married to your first husband. How soon after getting married did you get into an extramarital, or was it just one extramarital affair? Was it a number of different partners? Like, how long did this go on for? Like, again, like if there's
yeah,
anything you don't want to answer, like, just
no,
but
no, 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 no.
tell me a
I'll
little bit
answer
about
it.
it.
I want to.
Yeah.
So, I think the sex and love addiction is really sneaky. And what happens is you say, well, because it's not sex, it's not cheating. But anytime you're talking to someone and that your husband doesn't know, you're cheating. Like even if it hasn't turned into something. So that was kind of throughout the whole relationship where I would meet guys at meetings or I'd meet guys here and then I would, be dishonest with that. And then eventually we were in a shocker, like after 9 years and I had a daughter, the eating disorder was there the whole time, like
Mm.
just right. The eating disorder and then the love addiction. So it was at the very end. And I say, oh, we were separated. But to me, if you're married, you're having an affair. If you're still married, you're having an affair. That's just the way I look at it, right? Like, so at this point, I had made food my God, exercise my God, and men my God.
Mm.
And I put down the drugs and alcohol, but I was in a form of worship. I was not, I had a relationship with God, but I hadn't surrendered. I hadn't relied on.
So
So
I mean, again, like you go to these meetings, right? And I go to morning meetings, and it's
yeah,
it's men and women, um, and like when we actually, like, we don't even pass around the sign on list where you put your name and your phone number and whatever,
yeah,
and can you sponsor somebody. Like, we don't even do that because we don't, like, there's a list for women and there's a list for men. They don't intersect. But, like, you get a bunch of men and women in the room, and you get a bunch of addicts, and you get you know
yep,
inhibitions sometimes take over, and then all of a sudden you're having a conversation and people are hitting on you, and all these things
yeah,
can come out of it. So did you end up meeting somebody,
yes,
you
yes,
met
Matt.
somebody
Thank
in the
you.
program? Okay, so
Yes,
wow.
thank you for saying that because I don't think this is talked about at all,
Oh,
right? Because
it's a bit, I think it's a huge
it's a
problem.
huge issue.
I actually want to see. I'm actually really curious. In some type of future episode, I want to actually talk about, like, what happens in a lot of these rooms, like, because they, like, when you first get sober, they urge you, if you're not in a relationship, like, stay out of a relationship, get your shit right. You know what I mean? Like, get your mind right, like, like, figure out who you are first before you can go do elsewhere. But, like,
Especially if you're married.
especially if you're married. Yeah, but I mean, I would, it's like when you get into a room and you get somebody that's vulnerable, like, I mean, I hear about this shit all the time.
Well, when I got sober and guys would, like the older people, if a guy was younger and tried to hit on me, the older guys in the program would take him behind the wall and be like, don't talk to her. She's new, right? Now everything's kind of airy, like everyone's really nice and aware of feelings. And sometimes that's not good for people. So even if you have time, like they'd say, wait the first year, right? The cross addiction can happen in the rooms when you are vulnerable and you're married to someone that doesn't understand your recovery or your addiction. And it's just, yeah, like you said, it's not really talked about and it should be because, and I'm not blaming the person at all. I had a
Oh,
lot of,
no.
yeah, I'm not, but eventually, yes, I jumped on this guy's motorcycle one day after the meeting and he was like total opposite of my husband and he showed me the love and the attention and the affirmation and he really understood my trauma and off to the races I went. And unfortunately, there was, I had a sponsor, I had people at the time saying, yes, you shouldn't be with your husband because of all these issues. But I was unable to see the plank in my own eye. Right.
Mm.
I was focused on the speck in his eye and and I had done inventory, but I don't think I had really gotten honest about I didn't really understand cross addictions. This was
Mm.
like a lot people didn't really talk about cross addictions back then. And you weren't even allowed you're not even really allowed to talk about it. So I didn't really realize that the cross addiction was as bad as my alcohol and drugs, right? Like and now so that relationship the marriage ended unfortunately. That is my biggest living amends because I have a great relationship with my daughter's father who I greatly respect. He's such an amazing father
Mm.
and that relationship that I got into was the worst love addiction. This is what brought me to my love addiction counseling in my therapy practice. It was like a heroin addiction. Like if you think you can't be addicted to a person, you are mistaken.
Oh,
This
100%.
this
Yeah. So how long was this alleged affair going on before either you got caught or before you finally said, okay, I'm going to come clean? Like, how long was that going on for?
Well, we had already separated when I started but it was like that was pivoted the separation. So it came out obviously like during the divorce process.
So
And
did you start seeing this person when you were still married, or were you already on your way?
yes,
Oh,
I was
okay.
on my
Okay.
way. I was on my way out, but I was still married, right? So like
Got it.
I consider
So,
it
so
there.
you already knew things were ending. So do you think maybe like, partially you were maybe rationalizing, and I say
Yes.
rationalize because, the lies is in that you were kind of lying to yourself. You didn't kind of give yourself that big clean break that says, I'm going to like, you know, I'm going to finish this. And then before I do anything else, it sounds like you kind of brought
No,
everything in between.
I'm like you with the gates, right? Like I do one, then I gotta do another. I always had men lined up. And this has been like since I was 12, I'd never not had a relationship. I'm a relationship addict. One would end and I'd already be in another one. This was
Hmm.
just that I needed
From
so
one thing to
bad.
another.
Yeah, I needed to be loved and protected and cared for, and I couldn't find it in a person. And
Wow.
it's, because you can't, right? So the next 5.5 years was in this cross addiction. And we were both in the program, going to meetings, doing Big Book Awakening, it's like a cream of the crop sort of Big Book steps with Mark. Have you heard of Mark Houston?
Mark Cuban, like the
Houston.
entrepreneur?
No,
Sorry.
no, Mark Houston, totally different
No,
guy.
no, I don't know who Mark Houston is. No.
Okay. He's had a huge influence on the recovery community, but my
Okay.
sponsor flew him down here and we started doing like intensive step work, going to meetings every single day. But I don't think either one of us recognized or knew what love addiction was, codependency, sex addiction, right? And it was just, I'm sure a lot of people listening, or you included, have been in a relationship where it's just totally chaotic and crazy and just
I
you can't
mean,
live with them, can't live with them.
codependency, trauma, addiction, all of this stuff is all intermingled. It's all
Yeah,
connected, right? Like I told you before we started, some parents, when their children are having struggles with drugs and alcohol, some parents unfortunately enable their kids and their kids never, potentially get better. Other parents are like more tough love and kind of lay down the law and say, these are the things that you need to do. And then some parents actually have to like just completely give up control until the kids, to need to figure it out for themselves. But codependency is a big, big thing, big thing, big thing. And
It's a big thing. Yeah, it's a big thing. And like you said, it's not black and white a lot of times because just drugs and alcohol, we put them down and then we're sober. With love addiction and codependency and eating disorders, these are things you have to maintain to live, right? Like you've got to eat to live. You don't want to, if you're not in a relationship and you're avoiding them, that's more love avoidance. And codependency comes up in every relationship. So you have to learn in being an addict how to moderate these things. And
mm,
that's a daily struggle because, like that's why I mean, during this time, there were a lot of growth things. I was able to forgive and make amends to my father, to my mother.
sure.
I started, I was very involved parent. My daughter was priority, and my ex and I co-parented really, really well. Like there were a lot of growth, but this cross addiction with this person really almost drove me into suicide. It was
Mm.
absolutely, and the eating disorder came back. So when I finally surrendered all these addictions,
Did you
I
hit rock bottom in this second cross addiction?
100%,
And was it as hard of a rock bottom as it was for drugs and alcohol, or was it worse, or
worse,
was
way worse.
worse?
It
Interesting.
was
In what
worse. You
way?
know what? Yes, I'll tell you the thinking. And this is for people that are in the program. What your
Hmm.
disease starts telling you is you've been in the program, you've worked the steps, you have a higher power that's big. You've even been to church, you've read the Bible. I'm born Jewish, uh, but you've done all of these things and you're still not well. Like that's what the disease tells you. So what's the point of it? You're going to live the rest of your life tormented and in other addictions. So it's worse because there is no hope, right? It's like there is no more hope here. I've already done the steps 25 times.
Yeah.
But my power was in people, places, and things, and not in God. So
Interesting.
that rock bottom was the worst. I mean, I went into treatment for 7 weeks, and my daughter was in
For
first
love
grade
addiction. For love
for
addiction.
love and eating disorder. Yeah,
Wow. So you basically
I
went
was
to
really
rehab.
bad.
Okay, got it.
Again, yeah.
So I have a question regarding like what are some of the things that somebody can do?
Mhm.
I want you to put your licensed family therapy hat on now. Like when you sit down with a patient, right? And they're talking to you about their struggles and everything else. Like cross addiction is a fairly new term. You know, it's
Right.
something that has not really been talked about that much. There's articles out there. I mean, I've found articles as going back to like 2018, 2019, but it's not really something that's like kind of out there and like a big thing. So what do you as a professional psychotherapist, what do
Mhm.
you usually encourage and provide expert therapy around to help with that? So if somebody, you know, is watching this,
Mhm.
what can they do if they start to have, like, for instance, for me, if I have something that pops up, what can I do besides like, you know, be in touch with it, do the 12 steps, talk to my sponsor. Like, what are some things that you encourage them to do?
This is such a great question. So there's three parts of us operating, right? There's the part of us that's recovered, ED, that's in line with God and that can think in the moment and be mindful and present and react and not and respond to things. And then there's two other parts of us. One is the wounded child who always feels abandoned and rejected and needs to people please. And the other one is the angry teenager in us that just says, screw it. I'm just going to do what I want. And so the emotional maturity, the teenager and the wounded child needs trauma work. So when those reactions come up, like you said, like if you tell me a recent situation where you got triggered and your brain gets dysregulated into the thinking patterns of being abandoned, like say someone walks by me and says, "Hi, Robyn," and usually they talk to me that day, they didn't. And I start thinking they don't like me, like I'm not good enough. I'm sad. I feel rejected.
Mm.
And then I would go to an addiction. I have to be, I have to get to the bottom of the shame and to get into self worth and find out who I truly am apart from other people in order to start thinking rationally, which would be, oh, maybe that person was just busy. Or even if that person doesn't like me, I still have a strong identity in God.
So what do you encourage your patients to do? Do you encourage them to talk like in my therapy, for instance,
Yeah.
my inner kind of teenager child is his name is
Mhm.
Jason, which is happens to be my middle name.
Oh, that's my
But
husband's name.
oh, no kidding.
Okay.
So I actually, like when I'm in a meeting, because I have a lot of what is it? Depersonalization is probably the best way. It's kind of like
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
like it's a really big thing for people with depression
Yes.
and PTSD
Yes.
and ADHD, which I have all those lovely things.
I
Which
do. Yeah.
lovely,
I have.
luckily I gave all those fucking things to my kids.
I know.
But what I will say is like I have to oftentimes I don't do it enough, but I have to like kind of say to my inner Jason, like, hey Jason, like I'm in a safe
Yeah.
place. Everything's
Yes.
fine. Like I need you to just kind of let me do my meeting. I need you to let me have this conversation. I need you to just like back the fuck off. Like stop protecting me like I'm cool. Right? Is that kind of the things
Yeah.
that you do with them?
Yeah.
Is that a
Yeah.
fair
So
way to describe it?
yeah, no, that is, and thank you for sharing that. And I am so like great that it's great that you can actually name those things. It takes the shame right out of it. But
Well,
it's
it's
really
years it's years of therapy, believe
I
me.
know,
Like
I
I
know. It's
like
really the main thing is renewing your mind and pausing and asking for the right thought, right? And so
Hmm.
a lot of therapy these
That's
days
important.
are centered around feelings, and I've never gotten well from my feelings. It's renewing my mind and reparenting myself, like you said, and asking my higher power for the right thought. Like, oh, this neighbor doesn't like me. I'm being rejected. I'm low self-worth. Okay, that thought is from my disease and from my past. Right? So my higher power, like, God, help me have the right thought. Do you know, and the teenager, so the wounded child that you just mentioned is all about compassion and having the right thought from my higher power about um, helping that wounded child. The teenage thinking is more compassion for other people. And so mine was like, I love Metallica. I'm like, I wore black. I was like Ozzy Osbourne girl, like nothing wrong with Ozzy Osbourne. God bless his soul. But when I get
I got
angry,
a picture. I got a picture for you when I used to live in
okay, all
Marin.
right. I want to
I'll
see. I want to
yeah,
see. I'm still
Lars.
a huge.
I used to see Lars all the time. Anyways,
Oh my
I'm
gosh, I
a
love
big Metallica
Metallica.
fan.
I love me
Yeah.
too. But their inner heavy metal Robyn is, even
Mm.
if I'm not showing it, if I'm in a rage and I'm resentful and I'm offended by someone, that means that I am not in compassion for that person. And we see, like, it's very divisive out there. Most people are stuck in emotional immature age regressions. It's just, as addicts, we get and we have a program to address that, right? So I'm constantly turning because my own thinking is judgmental and critical, or it's abandoning and rejecting. So as well as
Mm.
I'm renewing my mind, because my higher power doesn't give me a spirit of fear, right? Like, my higher power gives me a sound mind and the right thoughts. And that's not how I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to live in a prison of my trauma past. I'm supposed to be right thinking. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's why it's really important to have like a daily intention. I think it's really important to
Yeah,
because like look, I originally got sober in 2021, right?
good for you.
I got a couple of years. I had a really big trauma. We had a puppy that got run over and it just
Oh
crazy story.
no. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm so
it was
sorry.
nuts.
I'm a huge dog person. That's so
Yeah,
sad.
us too. Uh,
Oh,
but
wow.
but but what I will say is that you know,
Oh,
when I finally turned it over, got past step one, and have now obviously worked through the steps. Um, the daily intention of reminding yourself that you're going to make mistakes, that your character defects are going to coming out,
yes.
but very quickly being able to course correct, I think
Yes.
is a really important skill, especially in sobriety.
Oh, absolutely.
Even by the way, I think it's even something that people that aren't addicts need to work on. Like I tell people all
Yeah,
the
you
time,
think?
I'm like,
Look at the world.
you want to learn how to deal with
Yeah.
shit? Go to a fucking AA meeting, like learn to like run a 12-step program. And you will learn things that you never. So I do it all the time, but it's the proper way to course correct. It's being able to learn that like, wow, maybe I'm not in the right mind to do this. I'm not in the right headspace. I sometimes refer to it as the little fucker in my brain, but it's
The Jason in your brain,
it's the Jason is
the
the
little boy.
protector,
Yeah.
the rebel, but the protector as well. But it's like, the 7-step prayer. It's the little things that you need to do. Like, it's the, hey, I just did something. I just snapped at somebody. I need to very quickly course correct and do something about it. Oh, I'm seeing somebody on the that I'm thinking something poorly about some or something, I need to course correct. And I think as and that's the importance of working an active program versus like just going to a meeting once a week. Like, I just don't think you can be in a program if you're just going to a meeting once a week, because everything else is just, craziness out in the world.
Yeah, well, over the time I've been in the in sobriety, I've also seen people going to a lot of meetings but not enlarging their spiritual life, right? Or going through the 12 steps, and those people don't make it, a lot of them. So I like what you said about setting the intention, but just my big thing is that I did not enlarge my spiritual life. So my
Yeah.
disease grew, but my spiritual life was stuck. And so I need those spiritual disciplines every single day, because I know, like they say, it just, because the cross addictions are process addictions and they're not like you just stop them and get sober. It's with me every single day. Like every day when I eat, I have to pray. Like, it's like, or in my marriage, right? Like the codependency is there. So I've got to be very vigilant about my spiritual practices. And I'm also now in Al Anon. I've been in every 12-step program except gamble, and I've never gambled. Actually, I think I gambled once. But I was like, oh, the last thing I need is to be in another 12-step program. So, but I like what you said about, back to that, setting an intention, enlarging my spiritual life, getting trauma, a therapist that really understands addiction, and getting reparented by the therapist, and just recognizing that there's nothing outside of a higher power that's going to fulfill or fill up that hole, right? It's not people, places, and things, or money, or any of these things that the world tells us is going to make us happy. And it's not about being happy. Being it's about being joyful with things, even if they're not perfect on the outside, right? It's about self-control. It's about humility. It's about kindness and love and peace. And
I think a lot of the things that you're describing are frankly byproducts of actually working a program and actually being in conscious contact with that program. So your
yeah,
ability to be happy is not just saying I'm happy. It's actually like, am I, making sure that I'm recognizing that my character defects are coming out right now? What are those character defects? What is the opposite of those character defects that I can actually, excuse me, work on, right? It's
mm-hmm.
being able to very quickly, and like I keep going back to course correct, but like course correcting in life is just I one of my big things about like this time in my
Mm-hmm.
sobriety was like, I don't want to be on my deathbed, whenever that ends up being, and have to be like, man, I really wish I did this, that, and the other. I really wish I was a better father, husband,
Right.
friend. Like I didn't want to do that. I wanted to actually like think about like, what can I do right now when I'm healthy, knock on wood, when I have, a house under my head, when I have food, when I'm working a program, I'm getting, when I'm improving spiritually, like what can I do now that allows me to prepare so that whenever that day comes, like I can
Mm-hmm.
say, yeah, I did the very best I could.
I love that you said that, because I'm thinking about you have a son?
Yes. I have a son and a
You
daughter.
have a son and a daughter. And like, I'm thinking about that as you're saying that. And that in itself is so huge, because it's healing generational trauma. Like, even, yes, maybe they got some ADHD and this and that, but
They
y-
did.
yeah, mine too. But they're not going to live the same life, right? Because you got sober and because you did course correct. And there's no such thing as perfection, but having the ability to course correct and recognize I'm in character defects, that's a blessing, because the disease is full. People are full of, when I was in my disease, I should say, I was full of shame and pride at the same time. And those are two things that will always block me from the sunlight of the spirit, is shame and pride. And so every
Mm.
day I have to say, like, help me see where I could be of service, because I've seen this guy in prison. He was in a tiny cell, like a double, like I don't even want to say his charges, but, and I was going in there thinking I was going to have to like help him on suicide watch or something. And he had so much joy, and he said, I have nothing here but God, right? Like, that's all I have. And then the next day, I had a client who's sitting on the hill, like, has all the money in the world, CFO of a company, and he's absolutely miserable with, a wife and kids and all this other stuff. And I was so grateful I had that contrast of those 2 days, because it just reinforced to me that this kind of life is about service. Like, when we get sober, it's about, and it's even if it's our kids or our spouse or our friends or our parents, right? Like, it's about, like you said, being on my deathbed going, you know what? I loved. I loved deeply. And
Yeah, I mean the perspective that you're sharing here in terms of like the of I mean, two examples, somebody that, you know, has everything and somebody that basically has nothing. And the person that has nothing actually can see, you know, the joy and the happiness in that. And I think that's what's so crazy about our society. We're so programmed and so conditioned to be like, how much money you have and what car you're driving and what's in your bank account and, you know, and all that shit, status, you know, like how much, you know, it's like I could give a fucking, I could care
no,
less. I could care less. And as I get more and more sober, I think more so about like what can I actually do for others that will ultimately like help me be a better person. Because I know if I'm helping others, then I'm helping myself. If I'm just focusing on myself, I mean, that's why I did this podcast. I did this podcast for the very reason that I think what I'm going to be bringing, what I bring to the world is I bring the ability to have conversations about very difficult things and humanizing them at a level that hopefully people will understand and be able to identify with. And those are things that, you know, are life lessons that we don't necessarily ever, a lot of us don't ever get to.
right. And I love that. Like, despite us still having things that we struggle with, we're still able to be of service, right? And like,
Mhm.
that's and you said that about the way the world teaches us what will make us happy, which is part of the cross addiction thing. Is I get to see as a therapist, it's such an honor because I get to see behind the veil, like behind what's actually you see on social media is not what's happening. And so I'm
Yeah.
honored to be part of seeing the pain, and it's all the same, right? It's the shame and the pride. And even if someone's not in the program, there's something they're worshiping if it's not a higher power. Like it's status or, you know, work or video games or yeah, I've been guilty of being on my phone too much. Right? So we're
Addiction is
all it's
everywhere.
everywhere, especially now in
Everywhere.
the United States. It's like, you know, the I mean, I go out to dinner sometimes and people have their kids on their phone and there's no
I
conversation,
know.
right? So
My wife
um
reminds me of it all the time. I'm
I try
I'm
to
I'm the worst at it. I mean,
as
I mean, look, I mean, we're human beings, but yeah, I mean,
human. Yeah, but we
yeah,
need that human connection, right? Because we
yeah,
need to know that we're loved and seen. And that's what I say that there's no addiction that's going to take you anywhere except to the bottom, no matter how good it feels in the beginning. And it always starts out slow, right? Especially those cross addictions. It's like, "Oh, I'll go on a diet, no big deal." And some people stop after they lose weight, right? Or, "Hey, I'm just going to give this guy my number and we're just going to talk about like babysitting." I don't know. Like the cross addictions a lot of times starts out slow. And normal people can kind of do those kinds of things and it stops. But when you have an addictive brain and an addiction, most likely you're opening a door, right? And so you got to like in the beginning of something. I just quit a gym membership that I was a part of, and I've been sober a long time. Is because it was a total scene. I mean, I was like, am I at the gym or am I walking into a club? And there was really like, I was like, okay, I can't, I got to flee from this
mm,
because I know myself, right? And that's part of my humility is that I can't think that I'm above it anymore.
mm,
So I have to recoil like a hot flame.
amazing. Well, listen, we could go on for
We could go
hours
on
talking
forever.
about this,
Yeah.
and but we have reached our time,
Yes. Thank you so
and
much.
oh well, I mean, thank you for being here, and just let everybody know, please follow Robyn. She's on Instagram. She goes. Let me just make sure I say this correctly. It's at Robyn Firtel MFT. I am following her. And I would encourage everybody to go to her website, which is robynfirtel.com. Again, if you are in the San Diego area or even beyond that, you know, I'm sure she would love to hear from you if you need help. And, you know, I
Yes.
always kind of end I always end my podcast by saying, you know, look, you know, we're human beings, right? Like we're going to run into problems all day long, and it's being able to course correct. It's being able to but it also comes down to kind of asking, for help, and it's okay to ask for help. And, this is a lonely disease. Life is lonely. And, being able to kind of do, what you need to do, but also getting help for it. I mean, that's exactly why you're doing what you're doing, Robyn, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, absolutely.
And so anyways, thank you everybody for being here, for being a part of the Sober Cold Bear podcast. Like I said, this is a resource to everybody. If you need help, ask for help. If you do need help, go to rehab. I swear to God, I probably should have gone to rehab, but go to fucking rehab. If you need to go to rehab, go to AA. But like, the magic sauce for me is I go to AA. I've done the 12 steps. I have a sponsor and I do service, and that is the magic sauce. And with that, we will say goodbye. Robyn, thank you so much for who you are, and I love you. And I'm so thrilled that we've met. And I would like to have you back in a future episode. Can we do that?
I would love that. I would be honored.
All right, everybody, take care, y'all. We're gonna say goodbye. I'm gonna hit the stop button. And again, thanks again, Robyn.
Sometimes I feel like I want to fly without no wings. I elevate inside my mind.